There is a chat function which is at the bottom of the screen. It'd be really helpful, really very helpful, if you could put your name and your email and the area that you're representing, because we're going to send you copies of the material that we show you this evening. And we can't do that unless we have your email addresses. So if you could enter in the chat function, which is either at the bottom or the top of your screen, just click on that and then you'll see a little box come up which you can enter your name, please, your email and your location. So just to look at where we are on buses, there is an organisation called Transport Focus, and they do regular monthly surveys of bus users. And we're hearing so many bad things and worrying things about our buses, but it is just interesting to see that Transport Focus report that 86% of bus passengers were satisfied with their bus journeys over the past 4 weeks. And that's despite quite a lot of cuts which have been made over that period. That's a national figure, but it is indicative that actually most people, when they're going on a bus, are pretty satisfied. What they get very upset about is if the bus is unreliable, turns up late, or doesn't turn up at all the bus service that they've regularly used gets cancelled. In terms of value for money, at a time when perhaps an alternative to going by bus is going by car, price of petrol has probably resulted in value for money being seen to be particularly good on buses at the moment. About 15%, 1 in 7 of all people outside of London use buses. So it is a hugely important means of transport. So on now to the presentation. The theme is very much bus it or lose it, because if we don't get more people onto buses, bus operators are going to find it very hard to maintain their buses. If on the other hand we can get more people onto the buses, this is very much a strong belief of Somerset County Council's new leadership. If we can get more buses, more people going on and using the bus, there is a strong case for persuading the bus operators to keep routes going, and perhaps being able to justify supporting bus services at county level. So we're going to have a Somerset Catch the Bus campaign. This is one of the logos we're using, and it's going to tie in with the National Catch the Bus Month, which is going to be in September of this year. And so our Somerset Catch the Bus campaign will coincide with the national month-long Catch the Bus campaign, which is run by Bus Users UK. And Bus Users UK have produced materials which we can use, you can use, which I can send through to you. Very happy to send it through to you. Any of the materials you see today, very happy to send these through to you, for you to use on social media, on posters, on any print material, whatever you deem as appropriate. They've got ads on various topics, the facts that buses are very affordable, certainly compared with spending £100 on filling up a tank of a car at the moment with petrol, that there is an economic benefit because they bring an awful lot of key workers and just people to work, to the shops. a vital part of keeping our city centres and town centres flourishing and booming, and they ensure that people in rural areas can get to urban areas and have all the advantages that that gives them. Buses, of course, are a sustainable means of travel, certainly far better than going by car. Switching to the bus for just one journey, one extra journey in 25 would save 2 million tons of CO2 emissions. Another ad they produced was talking about the health benefits of going by bus. It's been shown that people who walk to catch the bus, walk to the bus stop to catch the bus, and that bit of exercise is quite significant and can add up to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 steps a day in no time at all. So it helps you maintain your good health, boosts the economy, reduces congestion, and helps clean up the cities. Finally, the costs of rural isolation, and thinking particularly of villages just to the north of Wales who are threatened with being cut off by bus cuts over the next month or two. Social isolation costs something like £9,000 each year for every person who is mentally affected by the impact of that. So those are the ads that are going to be running during and on posters during Cat's a Bus Month nationally. Oh. So our first task, though, as people who want to support the Catch the Bus Month, is to create awareness of the Somerset Catch the Bus Month locally, so that by the beginning of September, people are thinking that this is the month when they need to make an extra effort to catch the bus, either for the first time or to use the bus more often. And maybe it's getting people to use it more often, which is the bigger of the two marketing opportunities. But what we need you to become is marketeers for buses, and particularly for the Catch the Bus Month. And here's one young man doing a very good job in using some of the materials that we'll have. These are the Catch the Bus hands. You walk down your high street with one of those, or two of those as he's got, and it's a traffic stopper. They are very, very eye-catching. And we can all be keyboard warriors. You're all obviously digitally pretty competent to be tuning into Zoom meetings. I know some people don't much care for Facebook, but Facebook does really empower people to communicate in their local communities. In my village, we have a Facebook page with 2,500 people. In Frome, which is the town nearest us, there are Facebook pages with 9, 10, 11,000, 12,000 people. One post on Facebook can quickly reach a lot of people. In smaller villages, I know the village of Holcombe, nearly everyone in that village is on their village Facebook. It may only be a couple of hundred, but it does mean if you want to get a message across to a local community, Facebook is a uniquely powerful means. It's got much higher coverage than any newspaper has of a community. And it's a power in your hands. You can do it. You could be posting the ads that I showed you at the beginning of this presentation, or we'll show you other content that you could put on there. But the thing about community Facebooks is that they're really local. And so what I would encourage you to think of doing is creating your own news. And so perhaps perhaps you can persuade, if you can get hold of your MP, to come and catch the bus with you in your town or village, and photograph them with you on the bus and then post it on Facebook. Or your county councillors. County councillors are really important when it comes to buses. It is the county council which has got the power to find the funds to support buses if they're being cut by the operators. They will tell you that they haven't got very much money, and that's certainly true. They don't have large budgets, but they can prioritise, and it's a matter of persuading them of the importance of your bus route if it's under threat, that it needs to be protected. So county councillors, really, really important people. They are the people, and we've got 2/3 of them now signed up to the Somerset Bus Partnership Bus Manifesto, which says that Somerset County Council and the new unitary authority will spend 40% more on buses by 2025 than it did in the last financial year. So a commitment to spend more money on buses. They've made that commitment. 2/3 of them have made that commitment. So expect support from your county councillors and garner that support, get them to come with you on buses, and get them backing buses in September. So do try and get a county councillor on board your local bus service with you, take a photograph and put it up on Facebook. District, town and parish councillors, also important people of influence. Get them on board again with buses by associating them with the Somerset Catch a Bus campaign in September. Perhaps there's a local celebrity, perhaps there is a national celebrity living in your village, in your town. It'd be great if we could get some famous people, but sometimes the famous person is the person who runs the pub in the village. Get them onto the bus and get a photograph of them on the bus. Any local personalities or seniors. In my village, we've got a chap of some 8 years of age, and I see him regularly at the bus stop with his shopping bag, and he's off to get his weekly shop using the bus. Well, I'll make sure that during Catch a Bus month, we get a photograph of dear old Fred going on the bus into Frome to buy his groceries. So those are just some of the things you can do. And I'll give you a few more ideas. Given this is going to happen in September, what else could we do? Well, there'll be a lot of school children, perhaps starting new schools, certainly going back to schools, and school buses are also under threat in many parts. So it's worth looking at school children going to school and having a photograph of them. Or students, somebody in your community off to university for the first time. If they happen to be going to start their journey on a bus, it would be a great shot to show them heading off to university by bus. Or if somebody in your community has had a new baby, maybe you could persuade them to go on the bus and take a photograph of that. Or newlyweds. I'm not suggesting they're going to catch a bus to go to the wedding, but it's a sort of local, particularly village or parish event, which again, you can link into going by bus and raise the whole profile of September being Catch the Bus month. And here's some more content. We've seen the material produced by the National Bus User Group. Well, here's some of the materials that the Somerset Bus Partnership has produced, and we can send you this, and you can use it to put on your Facebook pages, or you can run them off as posters and stick them on telegraph poles or whatever is done in your village. Yes, bus it or lose it. It's a really important message. It's a harsh message, but it is the reality that if we don't get more people using the buses, bus usage is still running at only around about 70% of pre-COVID levels, and bus operators are hit by huge cost increases with petrol going through, diesel prices going through the roof. They do need to see a better return on their buses, and the way of ensuring that is getting more people onto those buses. Carry on busing it, or much more serious perhaps, bus it, warning climate emergency, leave the car at home today. People would only leave the car, regular people who usually go into work by car, get them at least during the month of September into the habit of doing at least one or two of those journeys by bus and leaving the car at home. It's good for the environment, it's good for their health, it's good for keeping buses in their communities. Choose to bus it so you always can, or another way of presenting that in a different shape. Bus it because you're helping save our planet, you're ensuring the bus service for those dependent on it, you're not getting stuck in rush hour gridlock. So these are another array of materials that you could use on posters, you could use in leaflets, or you could post on Facebook. And it's not just newspapers. Sorry, it's not just the internet, it's also newspapers. But before we come on to newspapers, it's magazines. I've just sent an article to my local parish magazine about the Catch the Bus month, 1 month ahead, but it's a teaser article saying that the Catch the Bus month is coming. Parish magazines reach a lot of people with influence within the local community. So monthly magazines are important. Do try and get something in for the September issue. It's a perfect month for doing it. Try and write something, possibly using some of the materials I presented earlier on. Try and write an article for your parish magazine. But where we can, we're going to try and get more publicity than that. And I've always found local newspapers are interested in news stories about buses, and Catch the Bus month in September is a news story, particularly if you can get that linked into a photograph, possibly of you with a notable person, whether it's a county councillor, whether it's your parish council chair, whether it's your MP. We really do need to get local publicity in local newspapers. And the Wells Bus Group and the Bridgewater Bus Group and Somerset Bus Partnership will all be on BBC Radio Somerset this week. BBC Radio Somerset is very interested in the Catch the Bus week. We're talking to them, of trying to persuade them that perhaps one of their presenters will go and do part of the programme from a bus during September. And we're also talking to Points West. Points West are also interested in doing something on Catch the Bus month. If we could get somebody like Jacob Rees-Mogg onto a bus, I think that would be quite remarkable in its own right. Might even make national television getting Jacob on a bus. But we're looking for that sort of linkage to try and just raise the profile that much more, so that their news editors decide, yes, it's worth giving coverage to this. And we are trying very hard to get both radio and television coverage. And with your help, we can hopefully get some local newspaper coverage. And without question, with your help, we can get a lot of social media coverage. So one of the suggestions is that the bus user groups and the bus champions in the various parts of Somerset look to organise an event. And we've just put some dates in the calendar at the moment. There are 4 Saturdays in the month of September. We've already allocated the 3rd of September to Taunton to get the campaign off in the county town. And then on the 10th of September, Bridgewater and Yeovil and the village of Road will be holding events. We're suggesting dates in Glastonbury on the 6th, possibly in Wells on the 7th, and Frome on the 15th. Or it may be that it's better to do it on the Saturday. The sorts of events we're talking about, they could be standalone events, and I'll show you what we do in Frome, or they could be that something is happening during the month of September, and you go and have a bus stall in one of those events, and that's what's happening in Bridgewater. So it can either be something you do as a one-off yourselves, or you might just ride on the back of an event which is already happening, but because it's Cats a Bus Month, you have a bus stall there. And this is the bus stall we have in Frome. Again, you see the green hands. It's right on the high street of Frome. And we actually get there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're still there probably at 2:30 in the afternoon with a team of us rotating. You'll see lots of bus timetables, all the local bus services that emanate out of Frome to Bath and to Shepton Mallet and wherever, stock. We have the information. A lot of people come to the stall asking where buses go to. There may be people who often will use a particular route and don't know about the times of buses to other places, or even that there are buses to other places. So we always find it useful to have lots of leaflets, and by the end of the stall, by the end of the day, most of those leaflets have gone. The hands help, the poster helps. It's just a fairly basic table. And we have probably 5 people who rotate during the event. That's what we do on the high street. We promise you'll have good weather every Saturday in September, so you can start to plan now to be on your high street if that appeals to you. And this is again the hands being used to great effect. Most of those people you can see on the bus are local town councillors who came and joined our event and showed their support, and that got into the local paper on the front page. So again, what we suggest you do, get your councillors to bus it in September, ask them to bus it, photograph them busing it, put it on social media, show that your town councillors, parish councillors are backing your campaign. Yes, get your MP. Let's try very hard to get a few MPs out of the House of Commons. They'll all be very busy tonight watching the debate and probably not listening to me, but I will be less contentious perhaps than the debate. And many of you will be parish, town, possibly county councillors, district councillors. Get the whole issue of busing it on your agenda. Let's see towns and parishes around the county expressing support for busing it and encouraging their local residents to catch a bus as much as they possibly can. Something else bus user groups and bus champions can do is do something about bus shelters and the display of bus time information. Linda Snelling from Yeovil will know this awful bus shelter in Yeovil. I went down to see it the other week, and it is one of the worst, grubbiest ones, but I've seen very bad ones in Wales, in Frome, and in other parts of Somerset. The government Bus Back Better document said there needs to be a significant upgrade in bus shelters across the country. If you are able to, you could do what the Greens did. Here they are. They went out, a team of them, and cleaned 3 bus shelters in their local area. That was in Chard, I believe. It takes, I've done it. It takes about an hour to clean down a really grubby bus shelter. Do it with 2 or 3 people. You can do it in 15, 20 minutes. It can be a bit of fun. But bus shelters are an important part of it. And I'm afraid local councils, particularly the district councils and even town councils, are not and haven't done a very good job of maintaining our bus shelters. It's again something to raise with your parish and town and district council, to say that it should be a responsibility they take on. But if they won't, then perhaps some bus groups can do so. And here was a great example set in Chard. And then something which drives me personally up the wall, and I've worked in advertising most of my life, and I can't believe that there is any other industry which treats its customers as badly as the bus industry does in terms of misleading information or no information. Actually, a lot of bus stops don't have any information, but in many ways it's even worse when there's out-of-date timetables up there, and there are a lot of bus stops without any information, and I'm afraid a lot of bus stops with out-of-date and therefore inaccurate information. One of the things we can do, and again, Linda Snelling was doing this in Yeovil, where there were no signs up saying that certain buses were no longer going to go from bus stops. Bus company hadn't taken the trouble to tell their regular customers, their loyal customers. I mean, it's a scandalous way of treating loyal customers, that they were stopping services. Equally bad, it's scandalous when they don't tell their loyal and regular, let alone occasional bus users, that bus times are changing. Most bus companies are cutting back on the availability of printed material. First Bus West of England doesn't print any timetables at all, and they expect you to go online. The trouble is, if you go online, some of the bus timetables which are left online are out of date anyway. They don't take the old bus timetables down. But the one thing that can be done in our villages and in our towns is for us just to go and look at the timetables which are up, and if they are incorrect, printing off a new timetable and just sticking it up with sellotape on the bus timetable board, just to make sure that people aren't misled. And it's interesting, this was another piece of work just being published by Travel Focus, which shows that all those who are not currently using buses but used to, something like 40% of them don't know very much about the bus times. So these people who used to go by bus are the prime opportunity for us to get them back onto the buses. They don't know the times of the buses. And if there is no times on the bus stop or out of date times on the bus stop, there's not going to be much chance of getting those people back onto the buses. For those who've not used buses before, it's 3/4 of them have no idea when the buses are going to go. So if we try and persuade them to try and use the bus in September, how are they going to find out the times if the times aren't shown at the bus stops? So that's why the times being shown at bus stops is so important. What we do in my village and in 1 or 2 neighbouring villages, our parish council funds the production of a simple bus timetable showing what time our buses go from our village to neighbouring towns, and also what time those buses will come back from those towns to our village. And it costs us £150 to print this colour leaflet. We print about 1,000 copies, and our parish councillors, we go and door drop it to every single house in the village. If bus times change, yes, we have to reprint it again, but they don't change that often. And it's a very affordable thing for a parish council or a town council to do. It is important that we ensure that those people, particularly those people who haven't got easy access to the internet or do find online bus timetables somewhat difficult to read, do have the information on bus times. So it's another way of trying to get the information of bus times out into the market. So awful lot of suggestions and ideas, and we'll talk about them now. The final thing is, if you do put your name in the chat, we'll keep you updated. We'll send you materials. We'll send you the new materials which are coming out of the Bus Users UK operation. We'll make sure you're sent all of those. We'd ask you to keep us in the loop, particularly if you manage to get somebody of major significance to travel on a bus with you, to let us know in advance. We might be able to help you get publicity for it. Certainly come down and take photographs if you aren't able to do it yourselves. So most of us have got mobile phones and can take very good photographs with mobile phones, certainly every bit good enough for sending to local newspapers or to the television. So we'll keep you informed. We'd invite you to keep the Somerset Bus Partnership informed as well. So that's the Somerset Catch the Bus campaign. So why don't we now open the meeting up. Who'd like to speak? Sure.
I'll say something, Peter, if I may. Phil Shepherd.
Please do.
I live in Glastonbury. I mean, I use the buses a lot. I don't have a car. For me, the lifeline is the 376 because it runs. You can get back from Bristol to Glastonbury at 10:30 at night, 11:15 from Temple Meads, which a lot of people don't realise that you can do that. So I think the timetable thing is critical, really. A lot of people just have no idea when the buses, as those figures show, when the buses go or where they go to. And actually, it's entirely feasible to have a moderate night out in Glastonbury. And if you live in Wells, you can leave at midnight and still get home. And I think it's not just about the timetables. It's also, as you've demonstrated with your leaflet in Road, it's about the opportunities that the timetables afford. I mean, they are pretty limited on many timetables, admittedly, but with the 376, at least at the minute, they're really good opportunities, actually. So I just throw that in anyway.
We are hoping that you might form a bus user group in Glastonbury and Street, possibly. Don't know if that's on your agenda at all.
Well, I'm certainly up for absolutely for supporting it, and I've made a note. I see there's a couple of colleagues here from Street, or well, two councillors from Street I've noticed, and Susanna Clements from Glastonbury. So maybe there's an opportunity to do that. Absolutely, I will certainly want to support that.
Great, great. And anything we can do to help, just make contact with us, and we're very happy to organise a Zoom meeting if you need any help in that, and or come down and join a face-to-face meeting. Jean Howard.
Yeah.
You're muted, Jean. If you unmute yourself, bottom left-hand corner, I think. Yeah, that's it. No, you're still muted.
Right. I'm Jean Howard, Street Parish Council, with responsibility for buses.
Which parish council? Sorry.
Street.
Right.
So, Phil, let's get together at some point with Susanna. I know Chris Hughes is here as well, and I'm not sure who else from Street is here. But if we could get together, even if it's just by email, to try and get something sorted. Because let's face it, the 376 is actually the lifeline bus service for our part of Somerset. Yes, we need to be able to link into Taunton, we need to link back into Yeovil and various other places. Oh, right, thanks, Susanna. Can you send that to me, please? But I think that's where what we've got to look at is to try and get together, get something sorted, and put our case to the county council and to our MPs. We're lucky in Street that we've got a very senior member of the new Lib Dems, Liz Lyshon, who is responsible for budgeting in Somerset now. So hopefully we can have her here and maybe get her on a bus. I don't think we're ever going to get James Heapy on a bus.
No.
Sadly, but it's one of those things. But we are fairly fortunate that we've got some important county councillors in our area, and they could actually help drive things forward for us across not just Street and Glastonbury, but across the county as well.
Yeah, I've seen Liz in operation. She's a very powerful councillor, as is indeed Tessa Munt, who is councillor for Wales. I'm told that Annie has been waving at me and I failed to spot her. Is there an Annie on the?
Yeah.
Sorry,
hi.
Anne.
Hi. Yeah, I'm in Wellington. Yeah, a couple of questions really. One is just out of sort of interest. Who's promoting the national campaign? Is the first question. And my second question is, have you approached the bus companies themselves, like as you've said, they're obviously poor at marketing, to ask them to do something to contribute to this campaign, such as some freebies of some sort, some free trips, free days, something. And I've just noticed actually somebody's put something in the chat about employers, which seems a good idea to involve employers. I think maybe trade unions too, to help to promote it as well.
Yeah, it's a good question about bus operators, because actually in 2013, when the Catch the Bus month was first started and up until the beginning of COVID, it was something that it was a project by the bus operators. They totally funded it. But then at the beginning of COVID, they handed it over to bus users because they weren't prepared to do it anymore. And so it's now Bus Users UK, which is a voluntary group with some funding from private business and from the government, but it's Bus Users UK who is promoting it. We are talking to the bus companies. I mean, their financial state isn't good, but there are always the opportunity of doing freebies or special incentives. I mean, at the moment we're seeing in WECA, in the West of England Combined Authority, and particularly in North Somerset, a day, I think I think it may even be tomorrow, when all bus travel will be free for the day. I mean, think initiatives like that, we will encourage them to consider whether they will or not. I don't know. And I agree with you about the trade unions. Trade unions are very good at organising things, and yes, we'd welcome any support that we can get from them. We have one of our co-chairs, Glenn Burrows, is very active in the trade union movement, and we'll try and build on that and see if we can get them on side with the Somerset Capture Bus Month. So I'll go to Denise Dennis from Wales now. Councillor Dennis.
Hi. Well, Wales has been threatened by a rumour that one of our key routes to Bath for a lot of major part of the city and the outlying parishes will be axed. So that has given an impetus to our campaign, which started before we got that news. We don't know if it's definite. We have a market stall in the bus week, and I put up a comment saying that perhaps for those that are doing something in that week, if we are doing it on different days, maybe we could share those hands around, because if they are limited in numbers and they are made of plastic, it might be more sustainable to pass them on to the next group. We've invited the MD of First Bus and the portfolio holder for transport from Somerset Council to our parish our city council meeting on Thursday. I haven't had a reply from them, but we have invited them. The bus user group, which is just in its infancy, is I don't know how we've got people interested in making their views known, but whether they're willing to join us, that might be a different matter. Facebook page is a really good idea. But we do have a very vocal community Facebook page, and I don't know what the merits might be of having a separate bus users group Facebook page, but that's something we could definitely look at. And it just seems to be all happening in Wales. I don't know if other parishes are finding the same, but my inbox is inundated at the moment.
I think Linda Snelling from Yeovil would say hers was similarly inundated. I mean, undoubtedly there is enormous concern in Wales, and especially in the villages which are threatened with being completely cut off, just to the north of Wales. And I'm sure my inbox isn't as busy as Denise's, but my inbox is full of emails from that part of the world. So going on, Roger, I've seen you put your physical hand up. It's to save you having to keep it up if those who put their digital hand up. It's not often that physical hands take precedent over the digital media, but if you can just bear with me to save Roger keeping his hand waving at me. Roger, over to you. You're muted at the moment, Roger.
Right, try again. One of the most effective means to communicate locally is by newspaper letters, because that's the most read section of the paper, really. So I was wondering whether a model letter could be produced or something. I mean, you know, I don't know who's best to do it, but I'm happy to help with that. But a model letter, and that can be co-signed by a lot of people in your area, and that'd be and if you've got half a dozen people signing it, or several signatures, or whatever, the whole parish council, or whoever it is, or famous bods, whatever you are, to sign it, that would probably get published in a local paper and might get some chat going. because other people then write in and support it and maybe condemn it. I don't know, but so that's one thing. The other thing is I was thinking about press releases in terms of people doing stuff. Again, maybe a model press release could be produced and go out. Because there's lots of brilliant ideas you had there, Peter. The last thing I was going to say was, I don't know, in terms of the leaflets around the doors, whether it's feasible, it's a bit more complicated to do, but whether to get a general leaflet for Somerset that has come with some of those, I don't know which ones, but the excellent material was produced by in your slide projection there, maybe a general leaflet promoting the bus week or the bus month, whatever, so people could put around all the doors. They could supplement with a local timetable or something, but I'm just thinking, if something could be produced county-wide, we could order it if it can be done, because the printing costs, it's always 150 leaflets that cost the most money, quite frankly. The rest is all almost free.
Yeah.
So we could get a general design that could be promoted amongst this group, and then people could say, I'll order 300 or whatever, and 200, and that could be put around all the doors around the locality. But it'd be a general one, admittedly. But well, in terms of paying for it, it might be that we could do a little fund amongst ourselves and set it up and say we could contribute. It might just be some personal money or whatever, I don't know. But it would require a designer and a sort of someone to actually physically organise it with a printer. But maybe it could be supported by members of the bus user group to put a bit of money into it to get quite a few thousand produced. So it could be distributed all over Somerset. That's my thoughts anyway.
Really helpful remarks. We'll certainly address the issue of a model letter and a model press release, and we'll think about a leaflet. And we are looking at producing a Somerset Bus Partnership leaflet, but we'll see if we can do something along the lines you've also suggested. Alan Peters, always full of interesting views, Alan. Go ahead.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself then. I listened with interest to your presentation, and I, as a former commercial officer, reasonably successful, I feel, of a bus company, a lot of it in the pre-Facebook days, a lot of it was very relevant. And it is true that bus operators, especially now they're short of money, are very poor at advertising their services. It always used to said that we couldn't organise a party in a brewery. We could organise one, nobody would come because nobody would know it was happening. And this is the point on the Facebook. If you're going to put Facebook messages locally, which to me is a wonderful idea, according to your figures, 75% of non-users don't know anything about the bus services in their village. So therefore, on your Facebook message, tell them what bus services go from your village. Yeah. You know, I used to run, until last year, a service from Keynsham to Bristol, and it ran every half hour. It was busy. In honesty, I always used to believe that if everybody in the estates in Keynsham I served who worked in Bristol caught the bus, I would have never been able to cope with the demand. And that is how low the actual take-up of bus usage is amongst the population. And that is what has got to be increased. And it can only be increased by knowledge. You know, if there's somebody said there, they've only got one bus a week to their village. And I know lots of villages have that. But how many villagers actually know that there is one bus a week to their village? You know, I suspect 50% of those villagers don't even know they got a bus and have never even dreamed of using it, especially incomers or people like that. And it's just get the message across of what is there. And second point, tomorrow, as you say, is a free bus day in North Somerset, which I'm assuming is being paid for by North Somerset. I would find it strange if first, well, especially because Stagecoach are also involved in it. So I presume for North Somerset are doing it. Herefordshire have had free bus weekends since June. to the extent that on Sundays they introduce special services because of the new, they have no Sunday buses whatsoever, and they introduce Sunday services on the main routes and have been so successful that 2 operators are actually going to carry on running them when the free service ends in September, are going to carry on running them until at least Christmas to see how they do. And also that some operators have had to run duplicates because the services have been so busy. It's getting, but again, this is paid for by Hereford, and it's getting the councils, and I believe Somerset, in a similar way as Herefordshire, have got a levelling up fund or something like that, which is what I think they use to pay it. And I think that free bus days or free bus weeks or free bus weekends or whatever are a way of getting over to people what is available.
Thank you, Alan. And just on one specific, of course, yes, you can put your local bus timetable up on Facebook. You can post it just like you can post a picture of your parish councillor going on a bus. Yes, it's it won't stay there for very long, but it'll be there. So yes, it's an opportunity. Stephen Colson, you're mute at the moment. So if you could mute yourself and tell us your comments, please, Stephen.
Hello there, Peter. As you know, I'm a bit of an outsider here. If you want to let other people comment first, and if there's enough time afterwards, I'll make some comments. If that's okay, I'll keep my hand up, but I'll let everyone else locally have the stage first. Okay.
Okay. Graham Groucher.
It's never easy. 66 years of it.
Sorry.
I'm Shatwick Parish Council, relatively new chair. Jean, was it from Street? I sent you a message, but hopefully, can you include us in anything you do? We're relatively new as a parish council to thinking about the service to and from Shatwick. So the thing I was interested in, you all seem to be aware of potential cuts in October, and we became alerted because there's been a recent cut to one service from Street back to the village at, from used to come at after 7 o'clock. Now the last one's at just after 5 o'clock. So I think if we want to try and raise awareness of incoming issues, I'm asking where's that information that there might be more cuts to come. So we're basically on the Route 75. Used to be Wells direct to Bridgewater. Now I think it's Glastonbury to Bridgewater, etc., etc. So we're just kind of waking up in Shatwick, which is not surprising. It's a bit sleepy here. But so yeah, that will be really useful. You've got my mail on the notes. Yeah,
great.
Okay,
we'll make sure that that's passed on to
and plus anybody else who's on the call who's from the Polden Hills cluster would be good to hear from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Hassel, who's our co-chair from Southwestern Taunton. John, good to see you.
Good evening. Good to see you. And especially Tony. Nice to see you. I hope you're feeling much better. Right. So there are 2 or 3 things we're looking at. Frome had the Big Lemon bus, which is an electric bus for, was it a weekend? Either a day or a weekend. And we are thinking of perhaps doing that in Somerset West and Taunton. Working out a route that people can see, giving an hour here and an hour there, if that's possible. I haven't worked out the details yet with the owners, but we want to have electric buses on the park and ride, ultimately, and for everyone to be able to see the electric bus. I don't think it's practical to put it on the park and ride, but it may be that's the answer. Otherwise, it'll be at various places, perhaps for an hour at a time, so people can have a look over it, and we can extol the virtues of electric buses, which is one of the problems we're trying to overcome with climate change, obviously, to have more environmentally friendly vehicles. The other thing, unfortunately, won't be so environmentally friendly, because there are various vintage buses around in Somerset, as many of you will have seen. Again, one perhaps running from the station in Taunton around the town, down to Wellington perhaps and back, something like that. The problem with that is we are creating carbon, which we don't want to do. But at the same time, it's drawing attention to buses, which we want people to travel on. The other, well, two ideas. One is to go from Taunton to Dulverton, which is one of the routes which is, well, it's gradually been reduced from 3 services, the 25, 25A and 25B, down to just the 25. And it's every 2 hours, which is no use to man nor beast. They put double deckers on it. Well, of course, during the daytime, double deckers, fine. They're going around, they're doing the route, but there's hardly anyone on them. If they had an hourly service and it was a single deck, they'd get passengers on them. That's one of the ideas, to go to Dulverton and have people get on and off the bus and have your photographs, and to try and encourage people to get the bus and give it some publicity on the en route. The other idea, which I think will appeal to a lot of people, is to go to 28 to Watchet and get on the coastal bus from Watchet to Lynmouth, because that goes through some of the most beautiful parts of Somerset. These are not exactly mainstream, if you like, but they're ideas that perhaps would encourage people to use the bus on this occasion, if they like it, as most of them should. They then hopefully will continue to use the bus. After all, we want people to use the bus after September, not just during September. And another way is for councillors, whether it's district or county or ultimately unitary, to make sure that where a new development takes place, there are adequate bus services on that development, which can be paid for from Community Infrastructure Levy, CIL, or even Section 106 to a degree. But CIL is the main source of income for bus services, and you can either do it by giving the new residents a free pass for 2 years, which some of them have done, or I know there are other ways of doing it as well. Not just the new residents, but the whole area where a development has been done piecemeal in 3 or 4 sections.
Thanks, John. Yeah, thank you. Anybody who hasn't put into the chat their name and their email address, please do that. And I can see you waving at me, Suzanne. I'm not ignoring you. I'm coming to you now. I'm sorry you've been kept waiting. And you're muted.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Thinking about putting stuff up on timetables up. In Glastonbury, I did, as one of our climate emergency newsletters, I think I sent you a copy, I did a little route map showing what buses are coming out of Glastonbury and where you might have to go, say, to Street or to Wells or somewhere else to catch a connecting service. And apparently, I put some of them in the Tourist Information Centre, and apparently they're really well received. As soon as I'd done them, they needed to be updated because suddenly there was a new bus to Langport. That's the only trouble. But I think it could be a really effective thing to do. Thinking along the lines of the London tube map. And on that, one of the things that occurred to me might be fun would be like I know it's a spoof, but Mornington Crescent type of game where you try and maybe like a treasure hunt or something, where you try and figure out a route to get to Castle Carey from, I don't know, somewhere else.
From anywhere, difficult. I think.
Yes. But yeah, it was just an idea that popped into my head anyway. Just thought it might be quite good fun.
Castle Carey is one of those destinations that so many towns and villages want a bus service, and so far it's not well served, certainly not for any commuter anyway. I think as Stephen has very patiently waited to say his piece, I'm really interested to hear what you've got to say to us, Stephen. Go ahead, please.
Hello. As long as everyone else has had their chance, I don't want to take anyone's time, especially as I'm not local. I'm a bit of an outsider here, as I said before. But if there's no one else, then I will. Well, just to introduce myself, my name's Steve Coulston. I'm a volunteer from Buses and Fleet over in Hampshire. I know it's quite a way away. I'm a bus user. I'm also an ex-bus driver, and I'm currently a transport manager. And before you hang and quarter me, I did use my connections to reassure Stagecoach that we wanted to work together as a group and a bus operator, rather than protest and constantly complain, because that's one thing they're very wary about. They're frightened of bus user groups because they don't want to get into a confrontation, and there have been some people and groups before have done that, so they're very wary of that. But as a result, we managed to build a good relationship, and it has helped us. Now, I'm a firm believer that the future of our bus services are in the hands of bus users and local people, more so than the bus operators and the local authorities. Now, I'll explain more about that. Now, in many cases, there are currently not enough passengers to sustain certain bus services. We already know that. Bus passenger numbers were in declining before COVID. Now, the numbers are in a far worse and lower state than now. Now, to keep the buses running, we need to encourage more new passengers. Otherwise, bus services will be cut. And I'm afraid a use it or lose it message may not be enough. Now, the people we need to encourage to use buses for the first time will not use buses when the buses don't go their way and at the time they want to travel, regardless of whether it's free or the service has been risked of being cut altogether. I could use the analogy, it's like asking a woman to buy a pair of shoes in the wrong color. It's, in most cases, it just won't work. Now, people are only concerned about the convenience of their own journeys, okay? Bus routes need to be created or rerouted around the journeys people want to take, not necessarily around existing routes, unless they're already popular and sustainable. Now, one of the ways forward is, if any of you attended the Green Breather Day at Frome, when Tom Druitt from the Big Lemon brought down his lovely yellow electric bus. Now, it was brilliant when that came down. We had the event, it gave out a lot of people were interested in that sort of bus, and maybe like copying the idea for their own communities. Now, what would be important after an event like that is like a follow-up event. community meetings to encourage local people to have their say, support or create bus user groups, encourage local people to submit their own travel plans, especially with commuters. I did hear a story up in Frome that the hospital that was nearby, people are actually coming on the train and then catching taxis to the hospital, where maybe a service could incorporate the local community and maybe help take those passengers to and from the hospital. So, you know, with any bus company themselves, they like to see regular customers, and that covers all the costs of the routes, and all the extra ad hoc passengers are just extra there. But, you know, regular passengers coming, you know, using the service is 5 days or 6 days a week over, you know, sometime, that will usually be enough. If it was enough passengers, that will be enough to sustain a bus route and keep it going, but built around people's journeys rather than just going from A to B. Matching plans together, if there's enough numbers to help create those supports that support those routes, they could be proposed to local bus companies. And if you went to a bus company and said, look, hey, you know, we've got 20 or 25 people who regularly make this journey to and from at these times, would you consider putting on a service? And then if it's based around people's journeys, there's more chance of them actually using it. It doesn't have to be commuters, it could be different clubs, mums groups, toddlers groups, all this sort of thing put together. So it's more wider than just commuters. And if the local bus companies turn around and say, well, we can't do something, then communities really got to look at maybe a community interest company or setting up something similar to the Big Lemon themselves, a bus company that's run for the community but owned by the community. Or you could go under what's called a Section 22 permit, which for non-profit organisations can run a minibus as a bus service. There's one option. Or if it is even fewer passengers, maybe consider a taxi bus service. There's lots of options there to help people and help transport.
Interestingly, I got a meeting with Tom Brewitt of the Big Lemon with Frome Town Council. I think it's on Friday of this week. So that's still very much
that's good.
in the melting pot. And Tom Brewitt is very interested. John Hassel down in Taunton is trying to see if they can start to open up a dialogue. I introduced him to Mike Rigby of Somerset County Council. I mean, it's an option, but it's an option a year or two away, perhaps. But
there is a lot involved with setting up a bus company, operators' licenses, operating centres. There is drivers training, registering routes. There is an awful lot. Talking as put my transport manager's hat on, it is quite in-depth, intense, and I'm sure Alan Peters will back me up on that one.
Okay, thanks, Stephen.
Very quickly, if I could, Peter, do you know Jason Freeman?
I do indeed, yeah. Well, I know him through emails and so forth.
Because I understand he's setting up a community interest
in Bridgewater,
company.
yes, yeah. And I think he's engaging with the Bridgewater bus user group on that, and one hopes that it will be a success. Jason, of course, is a very experienced person in bus operations. He worked for Buses of Somerset, as you all know, Alan, better than me. Glenn Burrows is fighting off COVID to just say something. Glenn.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't going to say anything. I just put my thumb up to show that we are in touch with Jason, and that I didn't want to mention it too much because I think he should be here to talk about it. But yes, certainly that is going ahead, and he's in talks. Sorry, my voice is going with the county council, and with the town and district council. So it is going ahead in Bridgewater. Sorry.
Okay, would anybody else like to comment? Please, if you haven't already done so, so that we can send you the materials you've seen this evening and then keep you updated, do put your email address and name and location into the chat. or if for any reason you can't do that, our email is Somerset Bus Partnership, that's all one word, at gmail.com. So thank you very much for coming along this evening. We did have at one stage as many as 40 people on the call. That's an awful lot of bus passengers. And so let's pull together, work together, and see if by giving a focus to September, we can help stimulate and increase the number of people who do what we want them to do, and that's to go more often on a bus. So thank you very much to you all, and let's stay in touch. Keep us involved with what you're doing, keep us up to date. And if you need any help, setting up Facebook pages, and just picking up on the point that Denise said, we found in Frome, where there are a lot of very good community Facebook pages, but the Frome Bus Users Group Facebook page has got 750 members, and they find it really useful as a way of exchanging and updating each other on bus information, which probably wouldn't work so well on a large community page. So certainly in towns, it's well worth having a bus users group Facebook page, and we can help you set that up if you need any help. We will send you model letters and model press releases, really good suggestions. We'll try and get those produced over the next 2 or 3 days and send those out. And in the meantime, we'll send you a copy of all the slides today and a link to the video of recording of the evening's event. So from me, Peter Travis, one of the co-chairs of Bus Somerset Partnership, thank you for attending. Tomorrow night it's in Taunton. We've got a bus meeting in Taunton. If you haven't had a link and you want to come to that, do make contact with us and we'll send you that link. We're in charge next Monday, I think it is, with setting up a group there. And from the sounds of it, we might well be in Shepton and Glastonbury and neighbouring villages in the near future as well. So good to talk. We'll no doubt update you on our next Somerset Bus Partnership meeting in the near future. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks.